For more on this, I'm joined now by Ukraine's ambassador to Canada, Yuliya Kovaliv. Hi, Ambassador. Good to see you. Thank you very much for making the time.
Thank you for inviting.
I wanted to start off particularly on the conversation that President Zelensky had with the Prime Minister on what happened in Poltava, but more broadly on asking him to, he said, urge allies to allow permission and the necessary means to strike military targets on the territory of the aggressor country. Essentially, provide us with the weapons we need to strike inside Russia. Can you expand on what what role Ukraine hopes Canada can play in that?
Thank you, Vashi. And just to explain on the broader picture, what happens is Russia increasingly uses ballistic missiles, drones, and other types of missiles for the attacks across the country. Just a week ago, on August 26, there was one of the most massive attacks by drones and by the missiles throughout the country. Over 200 of different types of the drones and the missiles have been used, and 15 regions have been the target, including civilian objects, electricity infrastructure. Yesterday, there was another attack on Kyiv. Today, we see Poltava. 271 people have been injured. 51 innocent lost their lives. And when ballistic missile has been launched, it takes just several minutes for the missile to hit. So it's very important not only to have enough air defense to intercept these ballistic missiles, but also to be able to strike against the military targets inside Russia, including those where Russia is launching these missile attacks. That is very important for us because Russia is constantly increasing these attacks, what we see just within the last 2 weeks. We are coming back as the country back to the shortage of electricity. People in Ukraine now are back in 8-10 hours without electricity supply. That is the Russian strategy now, to destroy civilian objects, to destroy critical infrastructure. And we see this one of the deadliest attacks to date. And in order to prevent this, in order to save the lives of the people, we not only need to be able to intercept them with enough of the air defense system, the missiles to them, but also we need to be able to destroy those launchers in Russia's territory, which are the legitimate targets. And we need to be able to use the long-range weapons, including those which our NATO allies are providing us, inside Russia.
And who is sort of resisting Ukraine's ability to do so? Because I know the response has kind of been varied. Some countries say, use what you want. Others have been more hesitant. Are there a certain set of countries or country that you would prefer Canada apply the most pressure to? Who do you really want to convince that that's necessary?
I think, these are the countries who are providing us those, or can provide us those types of the weapons. And we can see how we use them in Crimea, temporarily occupied Crimea, by using the military operations there and targeting the Russian Navy fleet. We are able back to deblock the Black Sea, and Ukraine is able to protect ourselves and is able to back export the food to the global market. The same is also when Russia was trying to come closer to the Kharkiv region. We talked several months ago. It is important now that we push them back and protect those eastern part of our territory from Russian attacks.
I was going to ask, because the examples you provide, those are within Ukraine, right? The difference here is that as of August, the targets are inside Russia. And in general, the allies have been supportive of Ukraine moving into Russia in the ways that it has so far. The hesitancy they've expressed has been, for example, around using those more destructive weapons, in that could that be viewed as escalatory? Could that essentially implicate NATO allies in a different way? How would you respond to that?
Vashi, from our conversations with the partners and with you and your viewers, you remember 2 years ago we were talking about Leopard tanks.
Very much so, yeah.
Many of the allies said at that time that that could be a red line. Today, we are using them on the front line. The same we were talking about the modern air defense, the F-16 fighter jets. But if we evaluate this cost of this delay of the decision-making, unfortunately, that is the human lives. And today, what we saw in Poltava, 51 innocent people has been killed. That is also the price of this delay of the proper decision-making.
And do you think Canada, essentially, I guess, could play a role in expediting the ability of allies to provide what Ukraine is asking? Like, is that what President Zelensky thinks in conveying that to Prime Minister Trudeau? Does he want the Prime Minister to pick up the phone and start calling allies and saying, this makes sense, you should do it?
We count on Canada's support, and I would like to say that we have this very regular dialogue between President Zelensky, Prime Minister Trudeau on the ministerial level, and the Minister of Defense and Minister of Defense of Ukraine, Rustem Umerov, just recently had also their call. And yes, we count on Canada's support to talk with the allies, to explain them that the cost of this delay, the cost of being afraid of some of those red lines, which, let's be frank, some of the partners are trying to put themselves these red lines.
What do you mean by that?
It's like, as we all see this 2.5 years, we were talking about red lines, NATO standard weapons. We were talking about the red lines about the fighter jets. We were talking about Leopard and the many other types of weapons. First response for us was red line, escalation potential. But as the war evolves and Russia is producing and continue to produce missiles, drones, and using them against civilians across the country. And just for you to imagine, today many of the Canadian kids went to school. Now we have already few schools in Ukraine which are totally underground. Imagine that small children will have first their experience in school without single window, just under the ground, because this is the only safe way to provide them education. And it's not normal. It can't be normal in the middle of Europe. And this is because of these attacks, precisely. So that's why we are calling on our partners to give us this ability to destroy the places where Russia launched these missile attacks.
I have just one, if you don't mind, final question for you about the Canadian, in the Canadian context. We've spoken many times about a missile defense system that Canada had promised back in January of 2023. The CBC is reporting that Canada's initial payment for that was about 3 months delayed. The Department of Defense and the minister says that hasn't contributed to its delay because it has yet to be delivered. They anticipate it will be delivered next year. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes, and we are very grateful for that contracting this system. To be very frank, the world does not produce enough of those systems. And we are waiting from the producer. So if there is anything we can all help, that is to facilitate production. But that is the production line. Unfortunately, that's how the time takes. But we're really grateful for Canada to stepping it, to contract for us this NASAM system. And we are looking forward to the system to be delivered in Ukraine just when the production will finish.
Okay, I'm going to leave it on that note. Ambassador, I appreciate your time as always. Thank you very much.
Thank you.